Okay, let's do that again. Okay. Let's start from this, right? I'm not going to start from the beginning, but let's just start from this. Okay. Anyway, so there are companies who are really focused in data. Formula One is such an example. So here's an example of a team, McLaren team. McLaren team builds its race cars for each track based on historical data and simulations generated by the current season sensor data. So they actually build, quote unquote, build cars specific for that track, specific for that race. Okay, so they remember, okay, previously they want if they have different kind of tires. For example, if you think about it, the tires that is used by these cars, they are different. Okay, the tires, they're different. It can have a soft compound or hard compound. For example, soft compound, it can last faster. It will not last longer. So if you have, say, I don't know how many laps, say 60 laps, for example, after 10 laps, it's going to be, degraded. But on the other hand, it is good for certain situation, like, for example, whether that's what you call it, straight or in corners. Okay, so this is what they do. Let me just see. Okay, here is an example that they have in Mercedes. So Mercedes, they have when they designing cars, they're using wind tunnel, for example. But the thing is, wind tunnel is expensive, so they cannot use wind tunnel all the time. So they have to do it beforehand. They fix everything. They do some kind of simulation first, and then they put it in wind tunnel to see, the drag and drag factor and things like that. So the car design is very, very data sensitive. Second, visual analytics of the configuration of the cars, for example, when you want to race, right? And then you can also do race strategies. For example, if you want to pass a certain car, you have to put the gas, right? The gas, if you hit the gas, then it will consume more fuel. If you consume more fuel, then you have to refill the fuel. If you have to refill the car, then you have to go to the paddock, and then when doing that, you're losing time. So, strategies are involved in this. Okay. The way you drive is also different. I've seen videos or web discussing how Michael Schumacher, for example, in the old days, Michael Schumacher and Barrichello, they are both drivers for Ferrari, for example. The way they drive, the way they drive different. For example, if you have two pedals, if you are driving cars, remember that you have three pedals, right? You have gas, you have brake, and then you have clutch, right? Coupling, ram, gas, right? But if you are driving automatic cars, then you have only gas and then brake, right? There's no clutch. So if you have only two pedals, what do you do? Do you use right foot and left foot? Or you just use right foot and then the left foot is not doing anything? So it depends on people among people. I used to drive, I drive a manual. So I use three pedals, right? But I have also car with automatic. So when I drive automatic car, I'm still driving using my three pedals intuition. So I use only the right foot to do the gas and the brake. Okay? Gas and brake. I don't do right gas and then left foot for the brake. But if you've seen all these, what you call it, drivers, Barrichello, I think Barrichello, they use right foot and left foot at the same time. So you hit gas and brake at the same time. Okay, so it depends on the situation. Okay, so the data created during the season, it is based on many things: the driver, the sensors on all of this car. If you look at Formula One race, you can see all these people on the sideline, right? They have all the TVs, they have all the sensors from the cars. Okay, so if you look at this, it says GPS on all cars, right? GPS on all cars. The resolution is centimeter, not meter, centimeter. So, like 5 centimeter, you can see, okay, it is 5 centimeter. Remember our cell phone, the GPS is not that good, right? It can have like, the accuracy is up to 10 meters, for example, 10 meters. But this one, centimeter, the resolution, right? Because you have to be exact. That's why they're very exact, right? In this data. Okay. So they have everything. So it is dependent on data. So that's why all these companies, they have data science in it. Okay. Now, if you love movies, go watch this movie by Brad Pitt. If you love Brad Pitt, you'll see this movie, Brad Pitt.
Watch that movie, sir.
Moneyball. The name of the
Yeah.
movie is Moneyball,
Baseball
right?
statistics.
Right. So this is based on true story, true story of Oakland Athletics baseball team. This is a baseball team in California, in Oakland, California. Oakland is part of the California. On the left side, there's Oakland. Okay. So the story is like this. Brad Pitt is asked to manage a team, the Oakland Athletics. But the Oakland Athletics didn't have lots of money. This just mediocre team. They just mediocre team. So when he went to his friend, and his friend kind of one of the biggest team, and then he met this fellow with glasses, and this fellow with glasses apparently was very good in statistics. So he said, if you want to beat this game, then you have to use this player and so on, and that player and so on. So you have a configuration of player who can win this match, for example. Now, for example, if you hit the ball, right? Sometimes you're not supposed to hit the ball. You have to punt it. So the players didn't like it because they think, I can hit it. But he said, no, you're not supposed to hit that ball. To win this game, you have to do not hit that ball, basically, right? So it is kind of hard decision, but because of that, they started to win, kind of. Okay, so just watch the movie. I don't want to spoil the end of the movie, but this is a true story, and this is an example how data science was used in baseball. Because of this, after this, all major baseball teams are using statistics to analyze their players. So these days, statistics or data science in baseball is common. Okay, so this is real. Okay, again, next. Okay, hang on a second. Okay, where's my? Okay, now here is an example of Liverpool Football Club. If you seen, in the last few years, Liverpool won several games, right? Before they were just in the middle kind of papan tengah. They used to won many games, and then they went to a slump, and then they use this data science to win again. For example, if a player indicated by number 24, for example, right? This player number 24 has the ball. Where should he pass the ball? Okay, so he can pass the ball to different places. For example, the blue number 22 is the closest one. It can also pass to number 28. It can also pass to number 18. So the simulation shows that where he should pass the ball, for example. So they train that, and then they look at various example. So they can see, okay, to beat this team, this is what you have to do, because they put such and such as a defense and such into the mid player. So to beat that one, I'll have to put this players, this configuration, this strategy, or these tactics against certain groups, right? So they won many things, right? These days, all football clubs, they're using data science to analyze this. Okay, so again, this is an example of data science in all kind of fields. So basically, what we are saying is this: well, all the decisions these days should be based on data. It should not be based on your intuition only. It could be based on your intuition, but you have to also support that with data. Okay. So now here's an example for COVID-19 analysis. There are many ways to think about this, and one of them is to look at this data, because this can be used to, kalau sekarang namanya PPKM ya, kalau dulu it used to be called PSBB, ya, PSBB, PPKM, or whatever the name it is right now. Okay, so this is what being done in the back. Where should we implement PPKM, when, and for how long? Okay, because it's not just a matter of health only, right? Health only, because there's also economy, social aspect of it. If it's based on economy, it is based on health only, then the easiest way would be just to lock everything down, just lock down. But you cannot do that, because if you do that, then the economy will will fail, and if the economy will stop, then you have also another problem. It's basically bigger problem. But if you are not well, if you are in terms of health situation, if you're not healthy, then it is the problem. Okay, so that's why you look into this data. And I actually write programs to do this. I have data, and regularly I posted data on the status of Jawa Barat. In terms of Jawa Barat, because I'm part of Jawa Barat, and my concern is Jawa Barat. I look at the statistic regularly. I posted the situation. These days, the data changes. For example, it used to be only the number of person who are sick, who are in the hospital, and who are already well. Now, these days, we also look at the availability of beds in hospitals, right? Bornya segala macam. Jadi kita sekarang melihat macam-macam datanya di belakang layar itu untuk menentukan ini, karena nggak mudah ya menentukan ini sebagai kalau ini ada pimpinan daerah ini susah sekali tarik ulurnya, kapan di ini, kapan enggak itu, karena semuanya penting ya. Make decision untuk gini nih karena multifaset, jadi agak susah menginikan ya. Nggak bisa kita tutup gitu aja, nggak bisa dibuka begitu aja, dan banyak berisiko ya. Jadi ini kita lihat ya analisisnya seperti apa. Ya. Dan dari analisis ini kita bisa tahu efeknya. Misalnya kalau ada hari besar itu biasanya 2 minggu setelah itu terjadi lonjakan ya. Jadi kita bisa expected, jadi lonjakan. Kalau ada lonjakan, yang sebetulnya yang menjadi masalah adalah kesiapan rumah sakit ya. If we have enough resources at the hospital, then it is okay. It is not okay in the sense of everything is okay, but we can be sure that we are taken care of. Right. The problem is if the hospitals they're not ready and they're already overloaded. That's a problem. That's what we want to avoid. So tarik ulurnya kan itu ya, bagaimana supaya kita hospitalnya tidak overloaded itu ya. Karena penyakit ini ya semua orang akan kena ya, semua orang kena, apakah baik itu kenanya melalui divaksin atau tidak, semua orang pasti akan kena ya. Jadi tapi masalah jangan kena bersamaan dong. Kalau bisa kenaannya di spread selama 20 tahun gitu misalnya. Tapi yang puncak-puncaknya sekarang misalnya setelah itu ya kayak kita punya penyakit flu ya, yang kita sudah tahu menanganinya, tapi tetap aja ada gitu ya, meskipun gitu. Tapi kan tidak sampai mati gitu ya, tidak sampai meninggal. That's the problem, right? We have to make sure we're taking care of. Itu aja sih sebetulnya ya. Jadi tarik ulurnya susah. Kalau orang nggak boleh bekerja, ekonominya mati. Nah sekarang susahnya kita itu ya, jadi tarik ulur. Oke ya. So this is a complex thing, but we have to have data analytics behind it. Yeah. Cannot based on judgment, on gut only. Now, here is another great movie. The movie is on Netflix. If you have access to Netflix, watch this, The Great Hack. I think, I'm not sure whether there's this movie in YouTube, but for sure it is in Netflix. I watch it on Netflix. Sorry. So this is a story about remember Facebook a while ago? Facebook. So this was a story that created kind of a big hoo-ha in the world because this was started by Cambridge Analytica. So the story was like this. As you may have known, the old generations were using Facebook. I am still using Facebook, but the younger generation, they're not using Facebook, right? Mostly Instagram. And the younger generation, and they're using TikTok. So I'm still using Facebook. So this is a story about Facebook. When you use Facebook, I know how many of you are still using Facebook? Okay, so in the Facebook there are games, right? Games, permainan apa namanya, Candy Crush dulu ya, Candy Crush. And the things that people like is not just Candy Crush. Dulu ada permainan pertanyaan-pertanyaan ini ya, quiz-quiz. Jika Anda seorang superhero apakah Anda? Ditanya macam-macam, terus nanti Anda jawabnya Anda adalah Spider-Man. So you are Spider-Man. Oke, ya, ada lagi. Jika Anda adalah binatang, tanya segala macam. Maka Anda adalah kucing, gitu ya, dan seterusnya. Jadi itu ada pertanyaan-pertanyaan gitu yang orang-orang senang memainkan data itu. Oke, memainkan aplikasi itu. So Facebook has partners. They have partnership with all companies who are making games inside Facebook. Okay, so Facebook has the platform, but they have a partner. They have partners who are providing games for Facebook. Candy Crush lah, apa segala macam. No, when you run this application, or when you you join all these questions and statistics or whatever, right? You are allowing these applications to look into your personal information. Okay, so the applications might say, to run this application, I want to ask your permission to look into your contacts, for example, or your location, or things like that. So you say okay, right? Easily, right? And then you play the game. Okay. So what they do, what we don't know, actually we knew, but we didn't realize that this application have access to our personal data. Not password, not anything like that, but it's just my name, the contact list that I have, and so on and so forth. Now, that's probably okay, but at one point, Facebook has a bug, like a minor bug or misconfiguration. So instead of looking at my personal profile only, the application can also see the profile of my friends. For example, I have 5,000 friends in my Facebook account, right? So this application also has or had access to these 5,000 people, also the profile of these 5,000 people. So what they do, they build a profile of all these people. Now, if that's for their own personal case, that's okay. But these companies, apparently, one of them is Cambridge Analytica. So what this Cambridge Analytica did was they process this data. So what they're saying is that, for every person, I can have 52 points of, for 50 characteristic of your personal profile, 52 or whatever the number is, right? So because of that, they can predict what you like. They can predict what you do. They can predict what your tendency is. So what they're trying to do, this Cambridge Analytica, they go from places to places and they sell this data, the analysis of this data. They're not selling your data, but they're selling the analysis of your data to all the companies and political parties. And Indonesia, I think, was mentioned also. So they can see the tendency. Who are you going to vote for example? What issues are you concerned with? For example, that if you want to win this election, for example, you have to go to pengajian door to door pengajian, di mana daerahnya mana, itu ada datanya ya. Sehingga dengan itu kita bisa memfokuskan. So because of this, some political parties won election and things like that. Now Facebook did not know this originally, and when they knew about this, they got mad Facebook. and they recall these companies. They said, okay, we are revoking your rights to have access to our system. So this Facebook actually blocked these companies, but it was already too late. Okay, so these companies already have access to that. Now this video, this movie told the or documents the story of this data. Because of this and all the issues, then now the privacy the data privacy is considered one of the what you call it, a mood or not mood, but one of the most important things in Europe. Okay, so that's why they came up with the GDPR, which basically limit or they want to limit how a company could do to acquire our data. Okay, so this is the great hack. Ada pertanyaan dulu, silahkan kalau ada pertanyaan tentang ini nanti kita lanjutkan lagi. Ini belum masuk ke data science-nya. Tapi ini adalah kasus-kasus yang apa ya menunjukkan bahwa betapa pentingnya data.
Would like to add something, sir.
Go ahead.
I think that actually this add something and asking at the same time, sir. So, I was wondering that can we really completely 100% rely on data, sir? Because I'm a baseball fan, sir, so I watch baseball, and I think that sometimes there's an anomaly in data, sir, because like I seen a lot of players that has a great stats, high stats, like a high batting average and a home run, etc. But in the reality, sometimes these players can easily get done with. I mean, like that, sir. And the team's performance is not as good as his performance. So I was thinking that maybe we cannot trust 100% to and completely rely on data because there's an anomaly there. What do you think about that, sir?
Yeah, the problem with data analysis is that there are too many parameters. For example, I've seen another, there's a good application, I think GPT-3. The parameters, they have 1 billion parameters. So which parameter should I look? Should I tweak? Should I wait? Right? For example, now that's the problem because we know there are important data, but how to tweak which one is the most important one for this particular case, that we don't know for sure. Okay, so that's why we have a complex model. So if you make models, you have two options: make the model simple. Okay, make the model simple with very simple variables, but they're just general guideline. Or make the models complicated. They can be more accurate but more difficult to tweak. Okay, so you have to balance between those two. So I think the models are usually very complicated. That's why they cannot. We cannot say like 100%, but you can say okay, 89%, for example, possibility that this and that. So it depends on the other team. So what they I think we could go. Somebody asked, "Pak, what if one team they're using data science, right? And another team is using data science. So you're competing algorithm against algorithm, right?" So he said, "Okay, I know that this going to be put. This going to put this players. Okay, now then I'm going to put the antidote of that players here, right?" And then they said, "Okay, you put that antidote. Okay, now that's one of the things that that makes life good. Actually, the unpredictability." So that's one thing. Data is one thing, right? The other thing is the complexity of the data.
That's what sports team nowadays very obsessed with. They're really obsessed with data. Like in the NBA, they're obsessed with the triple double kind of stuff.
Correct.
But in reality, they can get slashed.
Yeah, exactly. The same thing with soccer, with football. People say that statistically, for example, to get one goal, you have to make, I don't know, 9 passes, for example, right? So you make sure, okay, you tell the players, okay, you make those passes because every 9 passes you get 1 goal. So if you make too many 3 passes, there's no goal. Okay, so that's what statistic is for. Okay. It's the same thing with Formula One. Same thing.
Just
You
to
have
get some confidence, yes, sir.
correct, and then you know how to respond, and then once you have the data, and then you have to respond in real time. Now that's the ability for you to respond. Sometimes you have the data and it will tell you something, and then what do? You're not ready to respond.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Oke, silahkan lagi. Nah, I've seen this in real life, because I have students who are very good in statistics, and they started company to do all the statistics. We have done analysis of Twitter, analysis of media social a long time ago, and it's pretty good actually, a good accurate to read what people say in social media. Okay, in the old days. So that's why you have a very good handle on certain issues. If you are going for election and there are certain things that are certain topics that you should not talk, for example. Okay, for example, if Persib is losing, then it's not a good time to talk about Persib, for example, right? So you avoid that topic and things like that. So anyway, because of this, the great hack, now people are concerned with privacy, and countries are also concerned with privacy. Before this issues, the Facebook, the Cambridge Analytica, the WhatsApp, or what have you, people are basically very lenient about personal data privacy. Okay, you have to watch this. It's very good actually. And convincing.
Yes, sir. It's a good movie.
Yeah. And also, now I'm reading a book on surveillance capitalism, which basically it tells you how these companies are doing these days, and it still and they will keep on doing this because there's no incentive to do it otherwise. So these companies will still get your information. Before, we think that the most important part is our name or birthday and things like that, and other things, like what time we log into our social media, what time we respond. That's not important. But these days, those data are more important. So for example, during our meeting like this, and suddenly in front of your house there's a call for sate, and because we are programmed, okay, at this time, if there's a sate, you will buy sate, for example, or bapao, or whatever. Right? So they know exactly what you like, exactly what time, because your behavior is being monitored. Okay. So a long time ago, ini ada cerita lama ya. Cerita lama nih saya ulang-ulang nih dari siapa ya? Oh, Robi Muhammad. Jadi dia cerita begini. Dulu zaman dulu sekali, kita tidak mengenal sains ya, jadi kita mengenalnya dengan inilah ya, ketakutan, hayalan ya. Dunia itu seperti apa gitu, sampai suatu saat Galileo menemukan teropong. Galileo neropong, dia bilang, oh ternyata tuh dunia itu bulat, kata Galileo. Dengan itu maka diturunkan rumus-rumusnya. Gara-gara ditemukannya teropong, maka ilmu pengetahuan matematika, fisika, astronomi berkembang dengan pesat dengan ditemukannya teropong. Oke, itu satu cerita. Oh, oke, ilmu lain berkembang pesat. Kemudian berikutnya lagi nih, penyakit. Dulu orang penyakit, oh ini penyakit itu sihir, witches, black, selalu ya, dia Inggris pun gitu. Wah, ini orang-orang dibunuh, dikumpulin. Wah, ini sihir, teluh gitu ya gitu. Terus tiba-tiba ditemukannya mikroskop. Ini ternyata masalahnya bakteri. Bakteri, begitu temukannya bakteri, maka ilmu biologi, ilmu kesehatan berkembang dengan pesat ya, gara-gara itu. Nah, jadi teropong, mikroskop itu adalah alat untuk melihat sesuatu, dan sesuatunya itu ilmunya menjadi berkembang dengan pesat. Bentuknya mungkin hanya bentuknya teropong biasa. Sekarang teropong bentuknya Hubble teleskop yang canggih, yang ditaruh di ruang angkasa gitu ya. Sampai segitu hebatnya teleskop yang mulai tadinya biasa dengan hebat. Nah, ditemukannya IT, sensor segala macam, sosial media segala macam, itu adalah semacam alat ukur teropong. Tapi yang dilihat apa teropong? Ilmu sosial. Jadi ini adalah ilmu sosial. Maka yang berkembang adalah ilmu sosial. Teropongnya adalah apa? IT tadi. Contoh, Kalau dulu kita pengen tahu seseorang ya atau sesuatu, kita buat survei. Kan Anda juga melakukan survei ya. Misalnya saya melakukan sesuatu, saya survei. Anda senang jika apa? Titik-titik gitu. Anda senang sehabis apa? Kasih orang yang baru gajian, dia bilang, saya senang karena habis gajian. Kalau gajian senang. Padahal sesungguhnya dia senang kalau habis nonton film. Jadi sebenarnya dia senangnya hobi nonton film dia. Senang adalah habis nonton film. Tapi kan dia belum habis nonton film, dia nggak tahu ya bahwa dia senang itu. Nah dengan adanya jam ini misalnya jam ini ya kayak Mi Band dipasang di tempat kita. Habis nonton film kita happy kelihatan. Oh berarti Pak Budi itu senang kalau habis nonton film. Oh berarti jadi dia melakukan tracking itu dengan lebih bagus lagi. Sehingga ini alat kayak gini, alat ini ya monitoring segala macam IT itu adalah teleskop untuk ilmu atau lingkungan sosial kita. Makanya lihat aja ilmu sosial sekarang kita berkembang. Nah, tapi berkembangnya ke arah yang salah, misinformation. Jadi hoax gitu segala macamnya. Oh, gitu ya. Sama juga ya kalau biologi kan itu juga sama. Nanti orang membuat bakteri untuk alat ini perang segala macamnya. Tapi lagi-lagi ya. So all those telescope, microscope and IT they're just a probe, they're just lenses, they're just a way to look at certain things. Okay? So social field is the most beneficiary from IT. Oke. Nah, sekarang kita pertanyaannya, what is data science then? Ada macam-macam definisinya. Nah, yang paling bagus menjelaskan data science adalah ini. Ini adalah Venn diagram, diagram ya, yang menghubungkan apa yang kita sebut data science. So I'm going to talk mix in bahasa Indonesia dan bahasa Inggris, so you get the point. Yang pertama adalah ini substantive expertise. Ini adalah bidangnya. Misalnya bidangnya ini adalah e-commerce. Ini adalah domain dari aplikasinya. E-commerce, oke, ini di sini. F&B, oke. Pabrik, oke. Entertainment, ini adalah orang yang punya masalahnya. Gitu. Kalau kita ingin mengetahui sesuatu, biasanya kita menghubungi orang statistik dan matematik. So we ask statisticians, and what we do here is the traditional research. You get all the surveys, you get all the t-tests, all the statistic thing. So this is what we basically what we call a traditional research. Okay. So if you have math and statistic and knowledge, that's it. Traditional research. Now, if you think about it, now this math, statistic, they're all related to social media, for example. Can we get data from social media? Okay, that's what we call machine learning. Machine learning is a mix of hacking skill and social media. This left side, it is sometimes called computer science. It used to be computer science. Basically, this is computer programming. Harusnya di sini computer science, tetapi pada kenyataannya orang-orang yang bekerja di sisi sini itu bukan orang-orang computer science, malah orang-orang yang bidangnya ilmunya apa-apa tapi coder-coder. Jadi itulah sebabnya di sini sebutnya hacking skills ya. Jadi ini realitasnya si Drew Conway itu bilang di sini orang-orang yang dibentukkan coding. Misalnya saya tolong ambilkan data pengguna Twitter hari ini yang nge-tweet tentang produk perusahaan kita ada berapa sih? Nah itu dari sini. Ini tolong dia jadi buat kode untuk melakukan crawling segala macam. Tolong ambilkan data statistik kita, penjualan kita bulan ini berapa? Nah, itu hacking skill-nya juga. Tolong kita libatkan berapa orang yang lembur dalam sebulan ini. Nah, itu ini ya dia ngambilin data macam-macam. Nah, keduanya ini irisannya disebut namanya machine learning biasanya, ya. Nah, yang lebih mengerikan itu adalah orang yang punya masalah tadi ya, misalnya e-commerce, dia langsung nggak ngerti matematik, dia nggak ngerti statistik, dia tinggal panggil orang komputer. Tolong ya, ambil lognya ini, diambil ini, dia analisis sendiri tanpa punya manfaat ilmunya. Makanya disebut danger zone. Karena seringkali misleading di sini ya, di danger zone ini. Jadi jangan sampai orang yang punya problem atau product owner ya langsung hubungi dengan orang komputer. Ya. Harus ada orang matematik atau statistik yang membantunya. Gabungan dari ketiganya ini yang kita sebut data science. Jadi data science itu sebetulnya seharusnya bukan satu orang, tapi satu tim. Ada tim yang mengetahui masalah perusahaan, ada orang statistiknya, dan satu lagi ada orang komputernya. Jadi data science is a mix of those. Kenapa ini danger zone? Nah, danger zone ini kita ambil contohnya di halaman berikut. Ini lawaannya si Dilbert. Jadi ceritanya gini lawaannya. Kata si ini bosnya Dilbert, dia bilang, saya pengen melakukan sesuatu. Use the CRC database to size the market. Kita pengen lihat ukuran marketnya. Kata si Dilbert, data is wrong. Oh, kalau gitu, then use the SIPS database. That data is also wrong. Nah, kata bosnya, can you average them gitu ya? Di rata-rata aja dari dua data ini. Katanya ini mau dikaliin juga bisa, Pak. Dipangkatkan juga bisa, diakarkan juga bisa. Ya, jadi kalau ini saya terjemahkan ke dalam bahasa Indonesia tuh begini. Ini orang bisnis dengan orang IT. Orang bisnis bilang, cari data pendapatan penduduk Kota Bandung dari data BPS gitu. Kata orang IT-nya, Pak, data BPS datanya nggak akurat. Kata orang bisnisnya, kalau gitu gunakan data dari pajak aja, Kata orang IT-nya, datanya juga nggak akurat. Ini orang komputer. Terus kata orang bisnis, kalau gitu kita rata-ratakan aja data dari pajak dengan data dari BPS. Kata orang IT, mau saya kalikan juga bisa, Pak. Mau dipangkatkan juga bisa, mau dibagi 17 juga bisa. Gitu. Tapi yang ini artinya apa? Nggak ada meaningnya gitu. Jadi if you don't understand the math ini, ya ini malah ngaco gitu ya. Jadi ini yang kita sebut ngaco nih kan ya. Jadi inilah data science, ini lawaannya dari si ini ya. Danger zone, danger ya. Jadi kalau orang IT dengan orang bisnis ngomong aja, danger. Harus ada orang statistiknya, orang matematiknya untuk membuatkan modelnya. Itu ya, gitu ya. Nah, sekarang kita tahu data science itu adalah gabungan ini. Tentu saja definisinya beda-beda, tapi ini menurut saya definisi yang terbaik ini. Jadi itu adalah sebuah tim yang terdiri dari orang yang mengerti permasalahan perusahaan atau permasalahan apapun yang ingin kita cari ya, tadi e-commerce lah, manufacturing lah atau apa. Kita punya orang statistik ya, orang matematik dan orang yang punya computer skill untuk coding. Sebagai contoh nih misalnya ya, nanti kita lihat ada datanya dalam berbagai format ya. Maka kita harus punya tools untuk atau bagaimana caranya untuk melakukan manipulasi data. Sebagai contoh, saya punya data, ini kemarin baru dataset untuk arsitektur, disimpan dalam format yang beda. Ada misalnya datanya ada sekitar 10.000. Itu dalam file yang ditaruh di dalam directory yang berbeda-beda. Saya harus menggabungkan 10.000 file, direktornya beda-beda, terbagi mungkin ada sekitar 30 30 directory yang harus saya gabungkan. Dan tidak boleh clash. Kalau ada file name yang sama jangan ditimpa. Berarti harus diurutkan segala macam. Nah, berarti saya harus buat coding ya. Jadi saya di sini kita sebutnya hacking skills. Codingnya apa? Ya terserah mau pakai apa saja bisa. Jadi istilahnya adalah data wrangling atau manipulasi data. Manipulasi data ini bukan bahasa Indonesia manipulation. Data manipulation itu melakukan format. Kalau manipulasi di Indonesia itu maksudnya kan penipuan deh. Ini bukan manipulasi penipuan, bukan maksudnya itu ya. Ya, proses. Nah, jenis data, there are all kinds of data. There's text, paling angka-angka data, tapi there's binary juga. Misalnya waktu itu ada satu tim ya yang buat aplikasi. Jadi aplikasi ini untuk pemilu juga. Kalau ada seseorang, dia motret dirinya, selfie dengan potret di background-nya adalah calon partai A gitu misalnya. Dan orang ini tersenyum, berarti dia pendukung partai A. Kalau dia selfie dengan potret dengan partai A, tapi dia kelihatan mukanya marah atau apa, oh berarti bukan pendukung. Ya. Nah berarti kita harus mengekstrak itu dari image, ya dari image. Ya. Jadi ada macam-macam, jadi image, audio, video yang kita sebut blobs, ini all kinds of data gitu ya. Jadi ini. Nah, kemudian kita juga data tools ini untuk visualization, untuk mendapatkan ide bagaimana nih datanya. Misalnya kita lihat statistik gimana, oh ini distribusinya kayak gini, oke, distribusinya skew. Misalnya saya pengen tahu, sebetulnya kayak misalnya saya ngelihat dari statistik saya, sebenarnya orang nonton YouTube saya itu jam berapaan sih? Ternyata malam. Saya lihat, oh orang yang nonton YouTube saya itu banyakan malam. Atau dulu orang yang ngeblog, lihat blog saya perhatikan orangnya itu paling banyak itu Senin antara mendekati makan siang. Jadi saya kalau mau posting sesuatu, saya mendekati makan siang. Jadi jam 11 saya posting itu paling efektif. Kalau sebelum itu kecepatan, kalau sesudah itu hilang momennya. Jadi begitu taruh di situ, langsung hitnya paling tinggi. Kenapa? Karena tadi saya lihat visualisasi statistiknya. Oh, jamnya kayak gitu. Saya bisa tahu statistik lagi, misalnya orang yang nonton saya itu ininya apa, laki, perempuan, sehingga saya bisa cerita topiknya apa, ya, gendernya apa. Ya, jadi atau saya pengen tahu orang ini sebenarnya aksesnya pakai apa. Dulu kita baru tahu tuh. Misalnya kita buat data tentang ini dulu sebelum COVID ya. Sebelum COVID kan kita di ITB sudah mulai melakukan e-learning semacam ini. Terus kita lihat datanya. Banyak kan orang ngakses lewat handphone. Most of the students are accessing our data through handphone di kampus. Jadi dia malah bukan pakai networknya kampung, tapi dia pakai operator seluler untuk baca data itu lewat handphone. Jadi kita baru sadar, oh oke, so now we have to develop our content cell phone ready, handphone ready, atau handphone friendly. Kenapa? Karena usernya pakainya handphone. Jadi berarti kita ubah. Kalau pakai handphone apa? Tulisannya nggak boleh kecil-kecil dong. Kalau tulisan kayak gini nih, kalau di handphone nggak kebaca. Jadi kalau gitu tulisannya hurufnya harus 2 kali lebih gede dari ini, sehingga kalau di handphone masih kebaca. Berarti teksnya kayak gini, slide ini harus dibagi menjadi 3 slide, nggak 1 slide. Oke, we have to do it in 3 slides ya. Karena kalau dijadiin 1 nggak akan membaca. Ya nggak masalah juga sih, itu masalah formatting. Tapi begitu kita tahu ya, jadi kita mendapatkan ide yang tepat ya. Nah, terus kita juga bisa menghapus atribut-atribut yang tidak diperlukan. Oke, they don't need this, they don't like this, just delete. It's just not important. Nah, kemudian dulu bahasa programmingnya itu karena ini susah banget, harus bahasa C segala macam. Statistik muncul, they come up with a very good programming environment. It used to be called S. But the S is commercial and it's a bit expensive, so that's why people are moving to the open source version. It is R, the programming language R. Jadi kalau Anda ini mungkin ada yang berapa yang di sini juga yang familiar dengan R, programming language for statistics. So now R is being used for data science to do that. But if you want to learn the general purpose language, now people are using Python. Jadi itulah kenapa saya ngajarin Python ya, karena Python itu bisa dipakai untuk data science, untuk artificial intelligence, general purpose, IoT, segala macam itu pakai Python. Daripada kita belajar bahasa R, belajar C, belajar apa-apa, udah belajar Python aja satu language. So Python can be used for all kind of purposes. So that's why these days Python is the most popular programming language. Ya, jadi itulah sebabnya. Nah, makanya orang belajar. Udah kalau saya ditanya Pak Budi bahasa pemrograman apa? Python aja. Kenapa? Mau kemana-mana pun bidangnya Python itu lancar. Jadi ya ini. Okay, now depending on the language that you are using, data visualization can be all kinds of things. For example, in Python, Matplotlib is an example of a very good library to do all kinds of things. Okay. Now let's go back to statistics. Okay, so we look at this, right? Now, the statistic, there are certain fundamentals that we have to learn. Makanya ada orang-orang bicara tentang linear regression, k-nearest neighbor, k-means, naive bias, dan seterusnya, dan seterusnya. Jadi orang data science, from the statistics point of view, these are the things that they have to learn, they have to master, and it is common in statistics. Ya, jadi ini kalau kita mau terjun ke sana ya terpaksa kita harus menjadi saintis ya, harus data scientist ya harus tahu ini. Kecuali tadi satu tim ya, jadi kita bilang oke, saya akan tetap, misalnya saya di dalam data scientist saya tetap akan duduk di hacking skills. Bapak Ibu mungkin dari substansi expertnya, terus kita cari orang statistics ya, yang untuk membuat satu data science team ya, bukan satu orang, jadi tim. Oke. Now contohnya biasanya kalau di kelas data science sesungguhnya, jadi saya ngajar data science juga dulu ya, ngasih training, maka setelah ini kita berhenti. Kita just like what we've done with AI and blockchain, we go to Google Colab and we use this to do regression. Ya, regression itu apa, dari data apa kita bisa mencari apa. So this is a simple example of statistic data science using linear regressions. And then we move on later on dari situ ya, mencari macam-macam sampai akhirnya kita membuat crawler, Instagram crawler atau Twitter crawler, ada tools-toolsnya yang bisa kita buat untuk melakukan itu. Ya, jadi sekarang toolsnya sudah ada di luar sana. Nah, misalnya nanti kita bisa melakukan ini, misalnya kita punya data text ini. What do you mean by data text? Ya, kalau lihat data text ini kan nggak kebayang ya. Ini datanya apa sih? Kayak kebayang kan, bagi saya juga ini nggak kebayang bagi saya gitu ya. Kalau saya plot baru kebayang, oh ini itu gitu ya. Kan nggak kebayang ya. Jadi ini harus diplotkan dulu, baru kelihatan. Oh, ini datanya bisa bentuknya seperti ini. The data can be like this, text, a comma separated, but it can also in this format, XML or JSON. These days, these two formats are common, especially in programming. They usually call JSON. JSON is just basically just like your database. There's a field and value. Say, for example, employees. Employees can have name and age. Okay, so this is employee number 1. The name is James Kirk, age 42, and then employee number 2, Jean-Luc Picard, 45, yeah, and so on. Dari case study-nya bisa macam-macam nih. Sebenarnya kalau di kelas dulu kita lihat data visualisasi COVID, itu program yang saya buat. Terus gimana mendeteksi email spam? How do they do that? They know that this is probably spam. Weather forecasting, sentiment analysis. We want to know what brand is the more popular these days. Is it Telkomsel, Excel, or whatever, right? And then political tendencies. And this is going to be what do you call it, popular in the next few years because our elections presiden kapan ya? 2024 ya?
Yes, sir.
So mungkin dalam waktu 2022 ya, 2 tahun ke depan ini akan banyak analisis ini ya, political tendencies ya, karena orang akan pasang kuda-kuda duduknya sebelah mana gitu ya. Terus data dari rumah sakit, data dari IoT, dari Lockwell server, ini all kinds of data, right? Ini ada bisa kita proses. Ini contoh, ini adalah data pasien aktif di Jawa Barat. This is an example of code that I wrote and I put it in GitHub, and people can see the animation here of the COVID, the trend and things like that. So we can make prediction, and we can also prepare for the better or the worse, right? Using this visualization of data. It's easier to see this. Oh, oke, ini ada trennya ke atas, oh ini ada trennya turun, dan seterusnya. So that's what we do. Okay, so that's it about data science. Ada pertanyaan? Sorry, barusan ini ya. Hang on a second. Let me just go back. Screen share, mana screen share? Ya, ini contoh animasi yang saya buat itu. Ada programmingnya di sana ya, programmingnya nggak susah-susah. Programmingnya cuma 1 halaman. Ya, jadi kita bisa ngelihat. Ini jadi kayak gini, terus kasus-kasus yang bisa kita lihat. Jadi kita bisa make decision on this, gitu ya. Ya, jadi ini contoh-contohnya, kodenya bisa di-download dari berbagai tempat ya. Jadi itu nanti bisa di-run gitu-gitulah. Ya. Oke, nah. In conclusion, data science ini merupakan satu bidang yang menarik karena dia membutuhkan tim dengan berbagai latar belakang keilmuan. Kalau dalam opini saya, ini membuat sebuah tim bukan individual. So if you are looking at data science, you're not looking for data science person, but you are building a data science team, which basically consists of those 3 things, right? Jadi ini tentunya sini membutuhkan sumber daya manusia, makanya orang-orang lagi nyari data scientist ya. Okay, that's all I'm going to talk about the data science. Ada pertanyaan? Tentang data science. Kelihatannya very clear ya. Kita nggak ada ini ya. Nanti kalau ada kesempatan lagi lah kita kapan-kapan kita lakukan programming data science, kita lakukan memproses data, maknai data, visualisasi gitu ya. Yang mana itu kayak sekarang itu programming itu kayak pakai Excel, ya. Nggak susah-susah, tapi ya kita harus tahu aja ya. Oke, now ada pertanyaan sebelum kita tutup sesi ini dengan pindah ke topik baru lagi. Let me just close this.